we do know the former head of counter-terrorism at the Metropolitan Police, Neil Basu, has talked about the kind of level of threats that they were experiencing before they stepped down, and said he had seen very real and credible threats directed towards Harry and in particular Meghan from far-right groups.
Tell us about the case. How did Prince Harry argue that he was a special case and should be allowed to have police security at his own expense?
Well, this is the second of two legal cases that Prince Harry has been bringing in the courts here in London about his security, John. And his argument was that he should be allowed to pay for Metropolitan Police protection when he and his family returned to the UK. Now, he used to automatically have that level of protection as a senior member of the royal family. But when he and his wife Meghan decided to step down in 2020, they lost that automatic right. Harry then approached the royal household, who spoke to the Home Office, and it was then referred to RAVEC, and that's the executive committee that looks after the protection of members of the royal family and public figures like prime ministers, former prime ministers, for example. And the decision was made that it wouldn't be right and it wouldn't be in the public interest for him to have that level of security. He then took it to court, and the Metropolitan Police during that court hearing argued that they were not guns for hire, that someone like Prince Harry couldn't pay for them. His argument was that football matches can pay for police officers, so why shouldn't he? And that he was born into the role as a member of the royal family. And I guess you could argue that the risk is perhaps no less now than it was when he was here in the UK. But the judge has decided that it isn't in the public interest, that the limited number of these very highly trained specialist officers shouldn't be used to be paid by VIPs like Prince Harry, and that it would set a precedent that others could perhaps be paying for that level of security.
Right, so that's the essence of the argument then, Sarah. He's obviously, a high-profile figure, to put it mildly. He's not the ordinary celebrity, but not a working royal. Did he address the argument that perhaps, look, he's still a very rich man, he could pay for his own security, since he does not have a public official function?
And he does pay for his own security at the cost of several million pounds a year, John. But his argument is that that level of security, private security, doesn't go as far as the kind of security that he was afforded when he was still a senior working member of the royal family, because private security doesn't have access to the same level of intelligence as those Metropolitan Police officers working within this very specialist unit of royal protection has. And I guess after the publication of his book Spare and the revelations about his kill count when he was serving in Afghanistan, for example, the threat level hasn't necessarily gone down. He is the son of the king, but he isn't entitled to it. Now he is no longer working as a member of the royal family. There are occasions when he does still get protection, John. For example, when he came over for the coronation, he was swept up in that bigger security bubble, and so he did have it. But if he and Meghan and the children decided to make a private visit back here, then he wouldn't be guaranteed that level of security.
So is that the essence of the distinction between the security that Prince Harry has now, paid for by himself, and what would be available if he was an official working royal? The access to intelligence in real time across police radios and elsewhere, and I suppose more police eyes on the case.
Yeah, well, 24/7 security is what he had from the moment he was born until January 2020, when they left and stepped down as senior members of the royal family, and he is no longer entitled to that. It will be reviewed on a case-by-case basis, John. And actually, this isn't necessarily the end of it, because on the wider argument of whether he is eligible for that level of security, he does still have a case going through the courts. He was given the right to have a judicial review about the decision to stop that security, and that is yet to come. What today's decision was whether he's entitled to pay for it when he visits, and that was the decision that we got today from the judge, that it is not in the public interest for someone like Prince Harry to pay for Metropolitan Police officers to look after them.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we don't know the answer to this next point, Sarah, but I'm guessing that if there's intelligence available of an identifiable threat to Prince Harry on a visit to this country or anywhere else for that matter, and that is known to the police or the security service in this country, that would be passed on.
Yes, I mean, we don't know the details because, of course, anything that comes to their security is kept highly secret,
Yeah.
John. But we do know the former head of counterterrorism at the Metropolitan Police, Neil Basu, has talked about the kind of level of threats that they were experiencing before they stepped down, and said he had seen very real and credible threats directed towards Harry and in particular Meghan from far-right groups. So we know that those threats were out there. But yes, I think you're right. I think it's a fair assumption to make that if there were any real threat, any intelligence about a threat, then the situation would be reviewed should Harry come back to this country. But I think one of the consequences of today's decision is that it's probably less likely that he is going to come back.